100%. We, the proposition side, strongly believe that the universal primary education is a misallocation because there are so many starving people in the world, especially in these developing countries, and that's why we strongly believe that this is a misallocation. We need to help them with food or water first, and then we need to give the education. And I have 2 points today. The first point is about the meaning of the universal primary education, and the second point is about economy. And before I talk about these points, I'd like to make it clear about 2 points. The first, they said that it has been given so long. So, but please think about the universal primary education. We keep on giving universal primary education for 30 years, but is there any skilled men created, and did they start any hospital or company? The answer is no. And second point, universal primary education is just give the basic skill like reading or writing and calculation skills, not how to avoid the AIDS or malaria, and not construction skills and how to build buildings or how to introduce infrastructure. And they do not, the universal primary education is for the children only around 10 years old. So they cannot, and also they do not have biology classes, and they do not about our bodies. So they cannot know how to avoid the disease like AIDS or malaria, and they are still poor. So even if they graduate from elementary school, they cannot have higher education because they cannot afford to do so. And let me move on. Our first point about the meaning of education in these developing countries. They said that equal opportunity to have education is very important. But what do you think starving people want? The good example is in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, there are thousands of people who are starving to death. But there is aid and food for only 500 people. And do you know how we distribute food? We choose 500 people who have possibility to survive, and all the other just watching chosen people feed it, and they give up surviving, and they will never get hungry. Should we give them gifts to them? The answer is no. It's ethically wrong because without any food to survive today, they cannot have education anymore, and we cannot give the education to their children. And so having education will not lead to getting jobs, because in this country whose economic system is working well, that's true. But in the case with these developing countries, to begin with, there is no economic system like developed countries. Among its citizens, they trade with each other, not using money, but using barter system. And secondly, they are seriously starving, as we said so many times. In East Africa, like Somalia or Ethiopia now, about 12 million people are starving to death, and they are just sitting on the ground and waiting for the aid. In these countries, is there so many available jobs which require reading or writing or calculating skills? The answer is no. They just have a primitive agriculture or fishing, and they trade with each other, not using money, but using barter system. So we do not need reading or writing or calculating system anymore. And their attendance rate is so low because the children have work, and without work they cannot survive, because in the case with their work is to draw water. If they cannot work, they cannot get enough water to drink and to survive today. So that's why the dropout is so many. The number is huge. And is there any merits if they could go to school for 2 weeks in their lifetime? Even if they could graduate the school, they just get writing or reading or calculating skills. This basic skill is not enough to get a job. And before I talk about the economy,
don't you think that if people are educated, aren't we going to enforce good governance on our paradigm?
Excuse me?
When when people are educated, don't you think that we are going to enforce good governance under our paradigm?
I mean, we strongly believe that with the universal primary education, we cannot give technical skill, because we just give the basic skill like writing or reading or calculating, and we do not think that the universal primary education solves this problem in the least developing countries. So let me move on my point. Second point about economy. To improve the economy, what should we do? The opposition side strongly believes that we need educated people and to introduce infrastructure or to build buildings. But is that true? Let's take a look. The proposition side strongly believes that to improve the economy, we need two important points. First point is powerful labor force, and second point is access to exportation and importation. And with if we allocate the resources to the universal primary education, we might have some educated people, but they have only basic skills. And there's a problem. Only with the basic skill like reading or writing or calculating skills, they cannot introduce infrastructure and they cannot introduce utility system because they do not have construction skills anymore. And and if we could not have infrastructure in these countries, there are no access to exportation and importation. Without road, how can they get materials for manufacturing? How can they export their products? That's why they are still isolated, even if we keep on giving the universal primary education for 30 years. And without utility system, we cannot get clean water. And this is a serious problem we have today. Because of the polluted water, the people cannot keep their health. And the people still stay unhealthy. And so that's why we cannot get powerful labor force, because of polluted water, many of the people become sick. But if we allocate resources for not only aid but infrastructure or utility system, with infrastructure and utility system and clear water, and then it will lead to the powerful labor force, and then foreign capital start to come because there is an infrastructure and there is a cheap labor, and so there will be more and more working place for each citizen, and then the workplace will be more and more competitive, and then there will be the incentive for education, because we need more and more citizens to try to get a better job, and then we need education, and then we will be able to have more and more factories in these countries, and then we will expect the economic growth, and so that's why we strongly believe that for sustainability in these developing countries, we need firstly infrastructure, utility system, powerful labor force, and then we need education. Thank you for listening.